Hello and welcome everybody to the penultimate podcast of the season, basically. This week we were racing at Abu Dhabi in the um, Emirates, in the Arabic Emirates, and it wasn't a sprint weekend like last season, but it certainly was a lot to play for some drivers because there were a couple of championships to be decided. Yeah, we will go through all the action that happened this week once more. And yeah, I think let's start with Division 1. And in Division 1, we had not only a new pole sitter, but also a new race winner in FG Shenogradsky. In qualifying, he set a 121.279, so that was his benchmark there. And he also went to win the race, with Blade coming second, Beeford in third, Rob Kelly in fourth, whilst Jack only in P5 with a post-race penalty. Same for Beatty Jacob in P6, who also picked up the fastest lap. Beatty Jordan then in P7, with Adam myself in P8, Jay Ronaldo with two penalties, dropping down to P9, and Tekubi in P10 with a couple of DNFs as well. This means that Welsh Jack has finally wrapped up his Division 1 Drivers' Championship and is crowned the newest Division 1 GRL champion with 294 points to his name, with Blade in second and 255. He's now 14 points ahead of Beeford in third, and Atta myself in fourth on 122 points. Rob Kelly in P5 on 105, and Gibson in P6 on 98 points, and the 8 points clear of TechUB. Dylan Baxter, FRC Suze, and FG Delta then round out the top 10, while Beatty Jordan is continuing to close the gap to the top 10. In the Constructors' Championship, Williams, as always, is remaining on top with 398 points, but they're only 17 points clear now of Haas, who sit on 381. Mercedes then in third on 347. We've got about an 80 points gap to fourth place Alpine. Ferrari remain in P5 on 193 points, and the 20 points gap to sixth place Aston Martin also basically guarantee them their top 5 position. McLaren in seventh with 169 points, while they're only 4 points behind Aston Martin, they as well 20 points clear of AlphaTauri. Red Bull then in ninth on 136 points, and Alfa Romeo round off the table on 112 points. Well, certainly not one of the races where the most people actually crossed the line in the end, but one of them, actually, it was a very important finish for him, and that was Welsh Jack, because he obviously went home to win the Drivers' Championship, and that actually with one round still to go at Interlagos. I mean, after fighting with all those people for 16 races now, Pat. I mean, it must be some relief for Jack, right, to win the championship with one round left to go, so he can just enjoy it for the next week.
Yeah, at first, huge congratulations to Welsh Jack. I mean, this season, he was just amazing. I mean, he did everything he had to do. He took the championship lead, and he was just so consistent, right at the top, winnings and finishing on the podiums week by week with packets of points. So, I mean, definitely, it's probably he can now relax a bit more. He will don't feel that pressure fighting for the championship, as he already wrapped it up. So yeah, I'm probably just some kind of release, but they still got the constructor championship to fight for. So I don't think that he will. So in my opinion, that his plan will be still to win the last race.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously he undergoes basically the qualifying rule with not being allowed to qualify at the back. But then again, it doesn't really matter because he post penalties with his penalty points being added to his license received a quali ban. So obviously he'll start from the back, which will be a bit difficult for him to win that race. But with Jack starting at the back, that brings something else or someone else into play, and that's Blade and TechUP, who scored big points this weekend, double top 10 again for the two Haas drivers. And with only 17 points as the gap between the top two in the team standings, it looks to be still a game on for the Constructors' Championship in the Haas team, isn't it? Because as I said, with Jack starting at the back, they've got a big chance to gain those 7 points on them.
I mean, yes, definitely. That actually, that quality ban of Welsh Jack will only spice up the fight for constructors. Yeah, the gap isn't really big, and we know how hard it is to overtake from the back of the pack, especially when you've got all the 20 drivers so close to each other with similar pace, and there will be probably a DRS train, so it will be even harder for him to make overtakes. So that is a good chance for Haas if they can both qualify quite high, around let's say both of them top six. I mean, we know obviously that Blade probably will be somewhere around the first or second row, but if Dekubi can get something out of his car and qualify, for example, in P6, P7, and then work his way through with the help of Blade. So I think, yeah, they've got a really good chance on winning that constructors and grabbing those points out of Williams.
Yeah, for sure. Also, in Division 1, usually Haas have not been very strong, and now they've really got a big chance, not only to win this season's Constructors in Division 1, but also to basically guarantee the team owner next season a good pick in that division as well, as that obviously affects next season as well. So that's going to be pretty interesting, I'm sure. And yeah, I mean, Blade obviously been outstanding all season long, and Tekube now also winning obviously last week at Zandvoort, showing his worth. So yeah, Haas looking very strong indeed, and Jack's Qualiban is only helping them out right now. Um, Someone else to talk about though is our winner, obviously, who we haven't really mentioned so far, and that's FG Shenogradsky. I mean, he only had one race before, which was at China, where he finished, I believe, P6. Also wasn't the Aston Martin there. Had good pace and cleaner there, but struggled in traffic. While he just decided, if that's my main problem, I'm just gonna avoid all the traffic by getting pole position and leading the whole race. That should solve my struggles, which it did. Um, Looking at the quali time of a 21.2 and the pace he showed before at the Chinese Grand Prix, you reckon you could say that it is a real surprise, or maybe was he already showing that glimpses of pace he could now actually unlock already in his second Grand Prix?
Yeah, I mean, we can't say it's a surprise because, as you said, that not only just his second race of the season in GRL, but as you said, his pace in China was strong, and only the traffic probably uh, doesn't compromise his race position in that race. But yeah, I mean, there's not much we can say about him. We don't really know how he looks, how competent he is. But that looks promising for our next season. If just in his second race in GRL, he grab a pole position, he grab a win, and yeah, that's definitely a driver to watch. So I'm just wondering how his pace will be with a new game, obviously, and new handling. And but that's definitely a not a surprise, but also in the same time it's a surprise. So yeah, it's hard to judge. It's hard to say anything as we don't really know him.
Yeah, for sure. I fully agree. Someone we know though, Rob Kelly. I mean, he's done well all season long. He's reached another P4 this weekend, so just about missing out on his second podium of the season. And yeah, with that P4 finish, adding to his current points tally, that means he's only now 17 points away, in theory, from fourth position. But with only one race to go, Do you think it will probably need Beeford's help there to put him in the fourth place? Because usually 17 points is not the biggest gap, but in one race you literally need a top two position. And what do you think? But on pure pace, it looks like Rob Kelly is not really there to get the top two spot on pure pace.
Yeah, I mean, it might be hard for him to get a P2, especially with the drivers that we've got at the top, like Shonogratski showed. Uh, he's there in the last straight, so there will be Blade, there will be that Jacoby that he will definitely want to be there at the top to help us to grab that championship of the constructors. And yeah, I mean, it will really depend of his quality. So if you will be able to qualify quite high, let's say in the top 10, and then stay with the DRS and maybe avoid some crash or accidents and pass couple of drivers, that looks promising for him. But still, there will be another driver, which is yourself, who will be also attending that race. He will be racing and possibly grab some points. So Hinda finish the season on the high to grab that P4 in the championship.
Yeah, looking at this though, we've mentioned him before, obviously, with Gibson and the second Williams, who basically will start ahead of his teammate at Brazil. I mean, it's interesting how actually the tables have turned, right? Because if you look at round 10, which was 5 weeks ago, so about a month, Gibson was leading Rob Kelly myself about 20 points, and now he's really dropped off. He's like 20 points back now, so if, in theory he's lost 40 points, which is almost two race wins. Isn't that surprising towards the end of the season that drivers really, looking at the graphs, moved up consistently for the first two-thirds of the season to just stagnate now? Is that maybe something he needs to have a look at for next season to just keep like the way of improving up? Because seemingly Rob Kelly and potentially myself as well have made a further step he couldn't make in the last two races.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that was just not the tracks that he's good at, or just some unlucky moment in a race, some mistakes. So yeah, it's really hard to say, but he definitely got a work to do before the next season to make sure that he's consistent for the whole season, not only most of it, because as we are seeing now, that now pays off because he was consistent for the season. He was consistently fighting for a top four spot, and he was right up there just until the last couple of races. So he might be. It might be just he. Maybe I don't know. He lost his focus at the end of the season, or anything, or he was maybe helping a Welsh back to grab his championship, and that was his main focus. But that definitely cost himself in the championship.
Yeah, for sure. But we'll have to see. Maybe can end off the season on a high. Maybe even repass Rob Kelly in the drivers. So that will certainly be interesting to see. But yeah, that's Division One. And now let's have a look at Division Two. Actually, a debutant in BRT Sam got pole position with a 1:21.540. So really good time for Division Two, way faster than expected. But the race winner was someone else, someone we are familiar with, and that's Guyton Cass in the Alfa Romeo, with Raven West coming second this week and boosted in third, so a top three in the championship, also filling out the podium spots. Then we've got Beatty Ole in fourth. And fifth, we've got Thomas with Jesper in P6 from starting from P10, so he's had a decent race. Beatty Sam then, the pole sitter, only finishing in seventh, with Lloyd in P8, Toby in P9, and Sonic in the Alpine rounding out the top 10 with further finishes in Lawn, Nebrestroom, Atomic, Caesar, Dan Miner, and Scornsey with 4 DNFs this week. In the Drivers' Championship, there might not have been a change in positions, but also here we've had a new champion crowned in Guyton Cass with 291 points. Boosted then on second place with 264 points. So as you can see in theory, he could still gain 27 points on Gaitenkas, but Gaitenkas got 3 more victories than Boosted, so he cannot be passed in the championship by Boosted even on countback. Raven Western in third with 207 points, and Thomas in fourth with 192. Then we've got a big gap to fifth place on Pikachu, with Sonic in P6, who's only 3 points behind the Ferrari driver, but he will not attend the last race, so he'll not be able to pass the Ferrari in the standings. Caesar to Wizard then in 7th on 110 points, so with a good race he could move up the table. Wargasm then in 8th on 97 points, so he'll not add to his point tally in this division. Parker in 9th then on 94 points, and Eric in 10th on 85, only 1 point clear of Lorne, who's looking to get into these top 10 positions. In the Constructors' Championship, McLaren remain at the top with 367 points, with Alfa Romeo only 5 points short of the British team. Mercedes then in third on 295 points, with Ferrari in fourth and Alpine in P5. Few points only behind Alpine, we've got AlphaTauri in P6, Williams in P7, Haas in P8, Red Bull then in 9th on 158 points, 13 points ahead of Aston Martin. We said in Division 1 there was a champion. There was a champion in Division 2 as well, in Gaitenkas, outscoring Boosted, as Boosted obviously also scored a couple of points by finishing on the podium, but Gaitenkas winning, which he didn't do in the last few weeks or maybe the last month, where Boosted seemingly was the better driver. But it looks like Gaitenkas has decided to outscore Boosted at exactly the right moment, hasn't he? And he's booked his title with one more race to go.
I mean, yeah, once again, really well done to Gaitenkas for winning his Division 2 championship and being crowned a new champion of Division 2 in GRL. And yeah, as you said, that he just delivered in the right time, in the right moment, and he just makes sure that there's nothing to fight for in Brazil. So he just did probably what he planned, and as we've seen, also he was just right up there on a top step podium. And I mean, look at that podium steps: Gaitenkas, Boosted, and Raven West in the championship. And how many times of the season we've seen those three guys on the top steps or even on the podium? I mean, if I would have to probably say the top 5 for Brazil, the 3 of them are sure, like Gaitenkas, Boosted, and Raven West. So yeah, but Gaitenkas was definitely one of the quickest of them, and definitely the most consistent driver. So he just delivered at the right time, and he just said, Boosted, okay, I gave you a chance, and but it's time to end it on this track. So he don't left him just any hopes for Brazil.
Yeah, you said it, summed it nicely up there. It was just those 3 drives for most of the season. I mean, Thomas basically kept up quite nicely, in particular with Raven West, but he just never looked to be that driver to challenge for this championship, which is obviously sad for him, but he's going to give it another go next season, I'm sure. But you also mentioned Raven West, and we said in the last 2 weeks, well, he's given up now, hasn't he? It's over. He can't score that many points in such few races. He's finished in P2 now after only P9 last week. And yeah, probably a positive end to his season. Of course, we've got one more race to go, so it can go up to P1 or downhill again for him. We'll have to see. But for this week, it must give him some confidence at least, right? To know, like, I'm probably not pushing as much as I could, because there's not much to fight for right now, but I can still claim a P2. Yeah, I mean, that at least must make him proud, right?
Oh, definitely after the race that he had, as he started from 11th place on a grid. So once again, the qualifying didn't really went as he probably would. So he was struggling with qualifying pace all season long, and he still kept with those two guys in the front for a whole season. That is just such an impressive. So his race pace is just incredible. So as we know, he's been struggling in the qualifying for most of the season on most of the tracks, and once again from 11th place on the grid, he went up there and he just grabbed second place of the podium.
Yeah, I'm sure he's going to be happy about it. As said, good end to the season, important for him, and will hopefully come back stronger for next season. One more thing though, because the podium could have looked completely different, like it did before the penalty report from the stewards came out, because it actually was Orly and Sam sitting in second and third after this race, but they both crossed the pit lane entry, which gave them obviously 5 second time penalty and demoted them to fourth and seventh. And we both know that Ferrari's rather at the bottom side of the midfield in the overall constructors, and they've had decent races the last few weeks, and they've gained a little bit. But even if you're not fighting for the top positions, I mean that's not what you want, right? To just lose a double podium just by ignoring a simple rule at the pit lane entry. I mean, that's the easiest thing to avoid, right? If you wanna score big points, and that's not gonna feel well for them because that's just easy points given away.
Yeah, I mean there was some drama with the crossing the pit lane on Abu Dhabi, and yeah, there was drama. Can I say it was unlucky for them? No, definitely it wasn't unlucky. So they've worked. They just crossed the pit lane. I mean, it was mentioned in the driver's briefing that you cannot cross the pit lane, the white line on the entry, and which they did obviously, and the penalty was fully deserved, and they just made themselves drop down the order. I mean, there's nothing that there is a lot that they actually could do. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
probably for next time they will be more careful with that.
I mean they could have had a chance to close in on Mercedes even more because now the gap is 35 points, but they would have probably scored like what 10, 15 more. So then it would have been like 20 points. And if it's 20 points, it's difficult, but you can gain that. I mean, Mercedes' second driver got Cintium, so they're basically a one man team. Uh, you could say that. And Ferrari have done well this week. Obviously, Sam is a reserve, and I think Ollie is as well. So they got a bit lucky there. But yeah, indeed, all in time above reserves. But we'll have to see how they do next week. But yeah, just as said, bit stupid kind of to just gift your rivals points like that. But if that's what one team is doing, that is obviously clear Ferrari stuff because that's what Ferrari does. But yeah, we've looked at the drivers for quite a bit now. But the Constructors' Championship is shaping up nicely for Interlagos. So, like in Division 1, the drivers is decided, but in the Constructors, there's still something to play for because McLaren obviously remain in first position, but only 5 points clear of Alfa Romeo. And this means it not only depends on boosted versus Geitencast here, but also their teammates in, I think that's Diamond Miner for McLaren, who I think has got more quali laps completed than race laps completed at this rate. And then Alfa Romeo, I think, yeah, it's Jesper, who's not had the best of seasons. I think we can agree on that one. Yeah, he's 14th in the championship. Um, but with only 5 points, it doesn't need that many from the second driver, especially if yeah, Geitenkast, for example, beats boosted to the win. That would already be points equaled. So we're in for a very interesting constructors battle at Brazil, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean definitely. So it's only 5 points, and as you said, it will be probably mostly because skating hasn't boosted, but maybe for one of the teams it's the time that the second driver will play the key role in that, or maybe it's this the race that one of their teammates need to perform and need to focus on himself, get a good race, get a good point, just to help the team to grab that constructors championship. If one of them can do that and finish, let's say, in top 10, I mean that will be probably the team that will win the constructors championship. So yeah, I mean that is the time for the second drivers in Division 2 for Alfa Romeo and McLaren to deliver at the right time, exactly when the team needed the most.
Yeah, I've just looked at the graph once more, and it's very interesting because on one hand, the McLaren have led the constructors since round six, so very early on, basically second month of the current season. And the biggest gap there ever was at round three. That was 33 points, which is really not that much. So you could say McLaren have walked their way up the order, like past Alfa Romeo, and have led since round six then. So it looks comfortable. But actually, if you look at it, Alfa Romeo have got 5 wins this season, and McLaren have got three. So if McLaren get beaten, especially Geitenkas beats Boosted, then it could be really dangerous for them because McLaren cannot rely on the countback rule because with one race to go, they cannot make up for 2 races won less. So yeah, I mean, if Jesper delivers next week, you could say Alfa Romeo have got a really, really good chance then, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, as I said before, that is the time for second driver to deliver at the right time, and especially when the team needed the most. So I don't know if the second drivers are racing for the Brazil, or maybe there will be a reserve. So maybe one of the teams will be just lucky that they will get a reserve that will finish, for example, around top 5, top 6, and then pretty much with gating and boosted up the top, it will be the championship wrapped up.
Yeah, for sure, full agree. But yeah, that will be very, very interesting going into the final race of the season in Division 2 as well. But yeah, let's have a look at Division 3 now, where on pole it looked to be on his comeback. It will be Wargasm to take the pole position. Basically, everyone completed their laps, and it looked like plain sailing in qualifying for Wargasm. But one man decided that this was not the time for comeback pole position. That was AJ Nolan, the championship leader going into this round, who took pole position with a 121.821. So he basically shut the door immediately for Wargasm, who obviously dominated this division at the start of the season and then got promoted after being clearly too quick. He's not played the game really much as of late, so he's been put into Division 3 again after rejoining to end off those last few races. But obviously, we'll have to see next season how he fares against the even faster drivers because he actually did well once more, even with barely any practice. Because the Alfa Romeo driver Wargasm won the race from second place on the grid. Adrian Nolan came second, starting from pole position, with Karen on P3. Of course, those three on the podium. Skeefy then in fourth, with Fend Waldo on his debut on P5, even though I've completely butchered that pronunciation, after starting from 19th. Then we've got Baberino, or Kais Babu, whatever you want to call him, in P6. Jack on his debut in P7, Shoes in 8th after being demoted after the penalties, Hayes then in 9th, and Lexus in 10th, with further finishes with Wiffle, Echo, Restore Panda, Tearcord, Pat Pader, and Casper, and the DNFs of Paystorm, 10th Cannon, E69, and the Lexus Beast. So you can see only 4 DNFs when Nicholas is not racing, so that is an improvement for everyone. Looking at the Drivers' Championship, AJ Nolan, like in Division 1, like in Division 2, the leader going into this championship round, has taken the Drivers' Championship this week. He scored 250 points so far this season and is now 46 points clear of second place Karen. So well done to AJ there. Karen is set in second place with Wargasm, now back in third again after that win with 154 points. Beverania in fourth with 146. Then we've got Purple Haze in fifth, Tearcod in P6 with 113 points, now 2 points ahead of Maka, who's not attended this week. Koyi in P8 on 98 points. He also didn't attend this week, with Skeefy ninth, getting up into the top 10, and Stone Shovel just about still in the top 10, but Bob is only 3 points behind him, as Lexus, and you'll never know. Maybe the almighty Pat Pader could get himself into the top 10, as he only needs 6 more points. But that might be a bit of a big ask there, but we'll have to see. Looking at the Constructors' Championship, Williams also here lead the way still with 311 points, and it's looking good for them because Red Bull have moved up into second with 287 points. So it's about 20 points between the top two. Alpine then in third on 279 points, so they've lost a bit of ground in the last few weeks. Aston Martin then in fourth, 20 points clear of Ferrari, who have improved into the top five. AlphaTauri then dropping to P6. Mercedes in seventh on 200 points dead on, 11 points ahead of Haas in eighth. McLaren in ninth and Alfa Romeo in 10th. So the teams who are doing so well in Division 2 are bottom of the table here. Well, same first topic basically as in Division 1 and Division 2. AJ wins Division 3, and it's actually, he's an OG. He's been here since basically day one in GRL, and he finally gets his glory. I mean, that's good to see, isn't it, for someone sticking to the league for that long to finally get a reward and being a GRL champion.
Yeah, obviously, huge well done also for Adrian Nolan. Yeah, finally after so many seasons, because after four and a half seasons gone, he finally gets his championship wrapped up, and going to the final round, he can actually just take the glory, have a fun in the race. I mean, that doesn't mean that he didn't have a fun in the race before. But yeah, I mean, he just delivered on the right time. I mean, with Wargasm coming back, we all knew that it will be close at the top between Wargasm and AJ Nolan. So yeah, AJ just showed that why he deserved that to be a champion. So he just grabbed the pole. Then he had a brilliant race. Oh, yes, he lost to Wargasm in a race, but as we already know that Wargasm is really quick and he's really consistent during the race. Don't really make any major mistakes. So AJ just stick to the second place, and I believe that he's happy with that second place because that helped him to close the championship before going to the last round. And yeah, as I said, huge congratulations to him, fully deserved. He was doing a brilliant job for the all season long, and there's nothing to say that he don't deserve it because he fully deserved it.
Yeah, wasn't it? It was always a bit of a interesting conversation between Wargasm and AJ. Is AJ really that much slower than Wargasm? But I think doesn't matter. AJ won the championship now. It is decided, and that's all that counts really. Actually, funny thing about it is AJ won obviously the GRL Division 3 championship on Monday. And he also won the BBC Tier 3 Championship the day after on Tuesday. So he's actually got 2 championships in 2 days. I think he also won the Constructors there. But that's something he can wrap up in GRL as well next week. So to win 4 championships in basically 2 weeks, that will be some good average. But yeah, before that, let's talk about the comeback king of Wargasm. I mean, P1 after he joined Alfa Romeo. as said, didn't put in much practice lately, but he showed his worth on his comeback, and you've got to show the respect to the man after of being away quite a bit. He's come back and he's won his first race back in, which was good to see. But yeah, I mean, for him, it's just now a bit of building confidence, isn't it? To really take the fight then to those drivers who are currently in Division 2, because that is very likely the group of people who will race next game.
Yeah, I mean, Vargas, he just came back with the lack of practice. He started a second from the front row. He grabbed a win. So yeah, I mean, I've always said that he was really quick from the beginning, and with a lack of practice, he still grabbed a win. So I still think, in my opinion, that that promotion was deserved and was fair. So, but obviously, he stopped playing for a while. He came back, lack of practice. So obviously, we can't just put him up in a higher division to because he got promoted before. So he raced again with Division 3, and yeah, I mean, it's his time to build a confidence in the next race, and going into the next season, he can look forward for a challenge those guys from Division 2 from the beginning, and probably most likely have a good fight with them, possibly for a championship, because I just know that he's capable of fighting for a championship with those guys in a higher division.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think I don't know. It's like it. He was one of those people obviously wanted to win a GRL championship ASAP, which is obviously good to see. He always won competition, but then again, I think we can agree. If he took the fight immediately in Division 2, he probably would have had a very good chance to be around the boosted Wargasm, not Wargasm, Raven West, Gaiten Cast pace level, because it's not that much. Because Thomas, for example, in Division 2 races, he, at some races he wasn't there, but then he was really fighting for the victory and I think got it at Monza, I remember. So I think Wargasm was about the pace, especially when he practiced. So you'll have to see, but I'm confident that he will take the fight to those guys next game, next season, even though the handling will obviously change a little bit. We talked about it before a bit. Williams obviously leading the constructors championship and have a nice cushion right now. More than 20 points is the gap of two second place Red Bull, and Williams are looking for the double championship basically. And with Red Bull obviously getting now second and Alpine struggling a bit, do you think it's going to be a kind of plain sailing championship for Williams, because it looks like it's just meant to be right now that AJ Nolan's not just gonna have a shocking race unless something happens, I would say. And yeah, he's gonna get some reserve as teammate who might pick up your point. So it's looking good for them, isn't it, going into Interlagos?
Yeah, it looks good for them. 20 points is quite a lot, to be honest. But I will surprise you here. You might not spot it in our division chat, but I've heard a rumors that AJ Nolan will start at the back, so he will use his opportunity to start
Oh,
at the back on purpose, and he might start from back. I heard the rumors. I've read something like that. I'm not sure if that's confirmed and for sure, because if he will see that they still got a
oh yeah.
championship to grab, he might change his mind. But so far, I've heard the rumors that he wants to start at the back of the grid. So with that, and if Maka and Skyfi, I believe they will attend the race, they've got a really good chance to gap the Williams by 20 points.
Yeah, I mean, if Asia had a very decent teammate, it probably wouldn't be too much of an issue, because it's still 20 points. It's basically they need a 1-2 if not Skeefy, if Age's teammate was going to be like third or fourth. So, but yeah, with Age not having a teammate, that makes the work a bit easier for Red Bull, and I think we can both agree that Mac and Skeefy is a very, very good team. Because
Yeah, obviously.
got decent points this week and also the weeks before, and we know what Maka can do. Either his PC shuts off and F1 is not going to be able to start itself, or he's going to be in the fight for the podium positions. So he's no champion for nothing as well, is Maka. So we'll have to see how that pans out. But yeah, if Avenger starts at the back, then the first place will probably put Williams a bit on the back foot for the Division 3 Constructors Championship. But also, I think for the overall, with Jack in Division 1 also starting at the back with his qualiban. So that will be interesting for sure. And we've got new reserves, haven't we? We've got Whiffle, E69 from last week who've had decent pace. And we'll see how they do at Brazil. So that will be very, very interesting for sure. Talking about people going to the back of the grid and then going from the back to the front, I think it's time to talk about one of our debutants this week, which was Find Waldo, who qualified in P19 and finished the race in the end in P5. Um, he was driving the Ferrari, I believe, this week.
Yes,
And
right.
at his debut, I mean, that was a really, really good showing from him. I mean, I think he was original Division 2 reserve, but it was very close, I think, with his times. So, anyways, doesn't matter. I mean, that was a great race from him, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, he just showed what he's capable of. And yeah, I mean, I know Waldo from another league, so I know exactly how quick he can be, especially in a race. So the quality didn't work out for him. So I had a chat with him, and he had some wheel issue or something that 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 way he didn't complete actually as his last run. But still, I mean, his quality isn't that strong, so he wouldn't probably qualify on pole. But his race pace is just amazing. He's really good at avoiding the crashes and going through the field. So that's exactly what he did from P19 up to P5. That's really, really impressive, especially on his debut. And yeah, I'm just wondering what he can do in a full season if he signed up for one for next one.
Yeah, I mean, you probably could say we repeat this every week now, but I think it's just amazing to see how this division has transformed. There are so many drivers who can really have a good race. Also in the reserves, I think we saw E69 doing well, particularly in qualifying at Abu Dhabi. We had a Whiffle, who, from what I remember, I haven't fully watched the Division 3 race just yet, to be fair, to comment on it that much. But Whiffle did well, I think, on the first few laps in particular. Just his setup went away from him a little bit. AG Karen Vorgasm, obviously very strong. Skeefy has done well lately. Takod, I mean, he's somehow gonna get himself in there, but lately has had a bit of bad luck. I think we can both agree that Juice has done really well in recent weeks. He's had a good few races, and well, Hayes, I wouldn't count her out of the occasion as well. As we've seen this season so far, she can do really well at times as well. So um, yeah, it's going to be very interesting going into the last round, and there might be some changes in the Constructors' Championship, which could be crucial going into next season. But in theory, most of those drivers probably will not have to care because they might be in a completely different racing overall come season 6. So that will be interesting indeed. Um, so yeah, that's our top 3 divisions wrapped up. With all the driver champions is secured, but we still have got Division 4, where there actually is a drivers' championship still going on. So yeah, in Division 4 we had Freezy on pole position with a 122.5. So as you can see, the pole position was actually 7 tenths slower than in Division 3. So yeah, was doesn't matter too much actually because it was enough for Freezy to take that first spot on the grid. Freezy also won the race from pole position with Benjo Warrior in second and Man in the Box in third, so a podium for the Alpine driver. Mason Rothman in fourth with Browns de Buns in fifth. So the championship leader and his main competitor just next to each other, crossing the line. Skion then in P6, making it a double top 6 finish for Red Bull. Flasher then in P7, Quick Mick in P8, Stubbs in 9th, Fanta in 10th after 2 penalties coming his way, and Spark in 11th with DNFs for Erna, Matthew, Kane, Halloumi, Monopole Monster, Blaze Rapid, Moss, McMessy, who's obviously put it into a wall, and Mike Reed. Looking at the driver standings, Browns the Buns obviously still leads the championship with 204 points, but he's only kind of 15 points clear of Mason Roth in second. Quick Mick then jumps up to third with 174 points, 4 points ahead of Erna in fourth, but sadly those two drivers are now out of the championship fight. Flasher then in P5 for Ferrari, J Street in P6 ahead of Stubbsy, Nuki Boy, SLR Vettel, and Mike Reid in 10th of the standings on 105 points. In the Constructors' Championship, Alfa Romeo are still in third position with 299 points. It looks like they will get into the above 300 points next week. McLaren then level pegging with Mercedes on 280 points. Red Bull in fourth on 264. 20 points clear of Williams. Then we've got Ferrari in P6 on 211 points. We're closely followed by Alpine, Haas, and AlphaTauri, as those four teams are within a point. So the changes in here in the constructors could be very, very crucial, as mentioned before, with Aston Martin in P10 of the constructors. So yeah, looking at the Drivers' Championship, in particular at the top, Browns to Buns leads the way with 15 points from Mason Roth. And even though this championship isn't decided yet, it looks like he's already got one hand on that trophy, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Brown he was doing so well through the season, and he was leading the championship most of the season, if not all the season actually. I can't really remember, but yeah, I mean, 15 points. It is quite a big gap to close. I'm not gonna lie, especially with the driver doing so well through the season, like bonus Ben. So it might be hard for Mason Roth to close that gap, especially if he will forget to brake behind following someone. So it might be a tough one, but yeah, I mean, Bonus Benz probably is feeling quite confident for going to that race with 15 points gap. That's a quite big gap, and he's, as we've seen, usually he's somewhere right at the top in top 5 finishers. So yeah, it will be really hard. So if I would have to place a bet, I would probably place a bet on Bonus Benz that he will grab the championship next race.
Yeah, I mean, 15 points looks quite big of a gap, right? But then again, if you finish, I think, P5 or P6 and Mason wins the race, it's all gone. And I think then actually Mason would grab the title. So, yeah, I mean, he can't play around with this gap too much, right? Because if you finish P5 or P6 and your rival wins, then it's game over. So he can't rely too much on the scap still, can he? Which is good for us to watch.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, 15 points looks big, and but it actually isn't. So as you said, that P5, P6, while your rival is winning, that will that's so he can. What I mean, he just can't feel too confident going into that race. He need to keep his focus. He need to do his practice and make sure that he's right up there, and possibly if he can just win the race to make sure that nobody will say that it was unfair or because something happened he won the championship, because it doesn't. I mean, he's just leading the championship for the whole season almost.
Yeah, certainly. Something else, especially about the constructors here, is I mean, we've said in the last 2 weeks that McLaren have consistently dropped down in points compared to Alfa Romeo and Mercedes here. and they've basically given away this championship. Now they've went up to second again as they're level on points with Mercedes, and they're 19 points off Alfa Romeo. You think this good weekend could mean that they've recovered in time to get this championship back, or is 19 points a very very big ask, especially in a Division 4 where so much can happen?
Yeah, I mean, if you look talking about the constructors, I mean, if you look at the drivers' championship, so McLaren drivers they are pitting P6 and P8. That's the closest pair in the Division 4 championship, drivers' championship. So it's just showing that they are just similar pace to each other, and they are they are both capable of doing fast because both of them, I believe, have won a race because J Street won 2 races and Milky Boys won one race. So if they can grab that top spots or maybe even fight for 1-2 in a race, I mean there's definitely so much to play with. And yeah, I mean that championship is open, so it's easier to score over 20 points ahead of your rivals if you've got two drivers doing so well in one division instead of, for example, one driver doing so well and one driver driving somewhere around the bottom midfield.
Yeah, for sure. I think for Alfa Romeo, Quick Mick and McMessy have done well in the last few weeks. So it will be interesting if they drop some points in the last race. That's certainly going to be interesting because if you look 3 weeks ago, sorry, McLaren, Alfa Romeo, and Mercedes were within 5 points of each other in the constructors, which was crazily close. And obviously, Alfa Romeo have made a bit of a step upwards to extend their gap. But yeah, if Mercedes and Alfa Romeo have a good week, this could certainly change up the order a little bit, which would obviously be very, very interesting at the final
Yeah,
race of the season.
at first, McMahon need to keep his car far away from the walls.
Yeah, I think that might be a tough ask for him, to be honest, considering he's a very, very bad driver. But yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, at least he's better at managing than driving. So yeah, he probably should keep away from the race car. But yeah, we'll have to see. We obviously would hope that Alfa Romeo struggle a little bit, so it gets more intense. Ideally, Brunstebans wins the championship in the drivers, and then someone else wins the constructors. But then again, Mason could interfere. So yeah, it's all quite hanging up in the air. Someone who certainly didn't play around with stats at all was Freezy, who just decided to take pole position and then take off to win the race, which he did. He also got the fastest lap with a 1:24.4. And I mean, he on track also won at Zandvoort last week, but the post race penalty dropped him down to fourth. And that's exactly how you want to bounce back, isn't it? Because the end of the season, pick up the confidence, especially if you're not in the championship fight like Freezy isn't, to just go with that momentum into the next game.
Yeah, I mean, definitely he did so well, but it might be also that the track would just suit him and he's just good at this track because if you look at his stats, I mean, he's got 2 wins, 2 pole position, and only 2 podiums, which was both of them have been wins. So, and he's got 2 fastest lap. So, which one of each was this week. So, yeah, I mean, he's definitely capable of driving at the top and with the drivers at the front, and that if he can finish his season on high, it might give him a little bit of confidence going into a new game and new season. So yeah, I mean, I'm wondering how he will do in the last race if he will keep his pace and fight for that. Obviously, he's a reserve driver, but he's definitely also a driver to work because, as we've seen last week, also he can do a lot of things. I mean, like covering for he got a pole position, race win, and the fastest lap, So he just took all three and said, okay, I don't care about the stats. I will show you what I can do.
Yeah, and that's also good to see him, and he's already 13th in the championship. So he's just about gonna miss out on the top 10, I would assume. but yeah, we'll have to see how he does. He's only done 3 races this season, so certainly good start to win 2 of them at least. So yeah, while Benjo Warrior obviously finished second behind Freezy, where he also did a good job. One man I want to talk about is man in the box in the Alpine, who finished third. And as we said, P6, 7, and 8 and 9 split down the 8 points in the constructors. This third place is vital, isn't it? And that exactly this podium keeps Alpine in that bottom midfield fight, which could prove crucial going into season 6.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, it's his first podium of the season. I'm really happy for him. He did so well, and yeah, there's not really much I can say because I mean, yeah, that definitely kills the Alpine hopes for a good spot at the end of the season in a constructors championship. And I'm just wondering if he and his teammate they can work a bit together, go through the field and help each other to grab some decent points. Maybe one of them also can score a podium because as we've seen, his teammate also can finish at the podium. And if they do, and their rivals doesn't do really well, I mean, they can definitely fight for that midfield position. While through the whole season, as we've seen, they've been struggling with the point. They've been most likely in a constructors championship. They've been somewhere at the back around ninth, eighth, and if they can finish the season in top six with the constructors, I mean that will be quite achievement. It will just show that they've actually improved going through the season.
Yeah, I mean, at the start of the season, Alpine were really struggling in this division, which pulled them down a little bit as they were fighting for the top positions in the overall in the first 2 weeks. But then Division 4 just dragged them down a bit. But it stabilized after a few weeks in, and then yeah, those guys certainly did well. I think also Golden Wolf had a couple of good races. Um, Obviously the odd reserve as well. So yeah, it was good. Just with those drivers given to Alpine probably wasn't ideal because wasn't a Browns to Bands, a Mason Roth to help the team out. But for what was given to Alpine, I think we have done a really good job with them as well. So yeah, very good to see a new driver reaching a podium spot. So yeah, that is obviously great to see. And yeah, so one more thing, obviously, like every week, we want to have a look at the overall Constructors' Championship. And as we've mentioned before the last 2 weeks, obviously, yes, it affects next season's draft order as well. So every point, every spot you gain is crucial. But if you just ignore this a little bit, we've got something else going on we didn't really expect over the last 1 or 2 months, and that is that Williams are not walking this really um, since the last 1 or 2 weeks, because we said, I remember, it looks like Williams will bring it home quite easily if they continue picking up this solid amount of points. Well, they haven't. Mercedes are only 17 points off. And if Beeford knows anything, and that is how to win a championship at the final race of the season, and he's gonna go for that with his Mercedes team. I mean, we've got a fight on our hands in all 4 divisions now, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean definitely. It's only 17 points across 8 drivers in 4 divisions. And it might be difficult for Haas, especially seeing that one of the top drivers, which is Welsh Jack, will start at the back in a really hard division to overtake. And then, if AJ Nolan starts at the back and he won't be at the top of one of the top spots at the end of the race, I mean, Mercedes got a really good chance to win that overall constructors. So obviously they got Raven West up the top in Division 2, who can do a miracles as we know, and they also got another good drivers, another good drivers like in Division 4. And yeah, I mean that might be a chance for Mercedes to grab the championship. So Mercedes need to do well, and with a little help of Williams from Welsh Jack and AJ Nolan, if they drop some points, it might be actually crucial for the end result of overall constructors championship.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look at how it has like changed the gaps since last week, so Williams have scored about 50 points, while Mercedes have scored 80. So they've gained about 30 points on the Williams, as last week it was about 40 points the gap. So looking at it, the momentum seems to be on Mercedes' side. But what I find very interesting about this is, if we look back to a few weeks, we couldn't see this happening, could we? It looked like Williams had it all under control. And now Mercedes have rocked up and said, last race of the season, we're here for it, and we're gonna go for it. So, what do you think? Do you think Williams might feel the pressure now to see, of course we've got two driver champions now. We're likely gonna win two constructor championships in Division One and Division Three. But this is the big constructors championship. You reckon there will be a bit of pressure put on themselves because Gibson obviously wants to win this.
Well, I mean, definitely. I mean, I think there will be a lot of pressure on the Williams drivers, especially seeing that how as you mentioned that how the gap was closing in the last weeks. How Mercedes was just taking a bit, and a bit of that gap, and last week they closed the gap by almost like 30 points. So definitely Williams can feel under the pressure. As I mentioned before, with the drivers starting at the back, one of the main drivers who is definitely starting at the back, which is Welsh Jack, who scored like a 25% of their points overall. And yeah, I mean they are definitely sweating and they are feeling the pressure that they've got going to that final round. While Mercedes also, I think, got the pressure, so they need to deliver and they need to work their way to grab the championship. But if someone's got a recipe, we know that before definitely got that recipe to win that.
I mean, something you can't ignore really is Mercedes are the defending overall constructors champions. And they've won last season very convincingly. And they've basically been on the back foot since round five or something, I believe, where they've lost the lead. And with many different OCC leaders this season, we had at the beginning of the season, you might not believe it, Red Bull. So they are now almost 400 points off, 300 to be accurate. Then we had Mercedes, obviously, at one point. We had McLaren for a couple of rounds, and with Alpine, so they were up there as well at one point. Alfa Romeo and Williams, and since Williams took over, it hasn't changed. So yeah, what do you think to top this Williams Mercedes topic of which team do you think has the bigger pressure? Is it Mercedes just because they're the defending champions? They've still got drivers from last season who know we've won it last season. We should win this again because it's the biggest championship. Or is it Williams because they potentially don't have that experience in that OCC fight and they've led it for so long now to lose it now it would be devastating. Who do you think has got the bigger pressure on their shoulders?
Yeah, it's hard to say, but definitely, in my opinion, Williams might have the higher pressure. So we have Mercedes; they are remaining champions. They are fighting to defend the championship, overall championship. But still, I mean, I can't remember. I don't know just if anyone have had a overall constructors championship back to back before. Do you recall?
Don't think there has been, to be fair. Looking at the Mercedes team from last season, I mean, obviously, it can happen now, as said, because they've got Raven West again, they've got Brown and Spans again. But yeah, I mean, we can have a check, but I don't think it has happened before. If anyone, it could have been boosted. because I remember he's the one that picked up the constructors championship for breakfast basically. Um, so he has. Okay, so Boosted has won the overall constructors in season one and in season two, but obviously that was before team owners were introduced. Um, that's obviously a bit of a different kind of overall championships back then. But and the team owners, it hasn't happened because obviously that was only 3.5 season four and season five now. But yeah, I mean, I think you might be right here that Williams have to complete this season now because Mercedes kind of know how it's done. Uh, Something else though, you've talked about it already. Talking about Haas and McLaren and Alpine. I mean, that's a battle that's been going on not only for this season. The funny thing is, in season two and season three, those teams were rivals as well, fighting for the overall constructors championship crown. And now it's 20 points separating them for at least third. Um, and use team one of Alpine. I mean, I guess you know who you want to come out on top in that battle, but you kind of have to look back a bit now as well, don't you? Because the danger of Haas and Alfa Romeo passing both Alpine and McLaren might be not the biggest, but it's still a potential danger for both teams if there is a bad weekend incoming.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we've seen Alfa Romeo last week scoring a full bucket of points, closing the gap massively. And 2 weeks before and 3 weeks before, it was Haas that they've scored over 100 points 2 weeks in a row. So we know that they are capable of huge things. So we as Alpine, we've been just quite a consistent for the whole season long. And last weeks, I mean, it's almost like a tendency. It was like a 5 or 6 weeks in a row now that we've been closing the gap to McLaren just by a bit, and now that gap is so small. So yeah, I mean, definitely we're gonna rely on the drivers, and I will try to perform better myself, as we know that it's been a tough season for myself. And McLaren's, I mean, they've been dropping the points to to as Alpine has and Alfa Romeo for last week, so they need to really watch their backs now going to the final round, because there is no space for any more mistakes, for any more of worse weeks or bad weeks, as they need to perform right now if they want to secure that third spot.
Yeah, I mean, looking further down the order, we can at least say one thing now. For Aston Martin, it's over. It's the gap is 73 points now, and I mean you can score 80 points, but I doubt you can gain 73. That might
Yeah, I
be.
mean, if they will score 1-2 across 4 divisions, they might actually jump quite a bit.
Yeah, but then they wouldn't be 10th after the first 16 rounds, I would assume, if they were capable of a 1-2. But yes, I mean, it could obviously happen. Not putting it out of the window, but yeah, I mean, we'll have
There's
to
still
see.
mathematical chance.
I mean, they were last in season four as well, so we'll have to see how that works out. Um, They've scored 1,367 points last season, so 600 more. But obviously, there were a lot of more rounds last
And
season
divisions.
and divisions, yes, as well. So we'll have to see. Maybe they can end the season with a couple of decent races. But yeah, I mean, Brazil is certainly gonna spice things up in a couple of races. And yeah, probably the closest championship is the overall constructors, which in theory is also the most important. So yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. But that was pardon me about the races in Abu Dhabi. That was certainly interesting. We've extended over an hour this time, so that was a good job for sure. And we'll see you all after the final race of the season at Brazil, the final race of F123 probably, unless the All-Star race gets put in. We'll have to see about that. But yeah, until then, we'll see you again when GRL returns.